Well, my name's Tom Parker. I'm the sport engineer for Sunpark Products. I've been here since 1997. I'm the head rigger, which means I oversee the rigging. I'm too old and too fat to actually rig that much anymore, but I teach around the world, of course. And what I'll show you today is what we do every day at Sunpark. So regardless if it's an RSK, the small one, or pretty much up to the J8 and into the military, we pack everything the same way. It's the same technique. And what you're going to find when you leave here, again, how many people are riggers or pack parachutes or reserves? Okay, so you have your own method, and you know your method works because you saved your wife, you saved your friend, and it's like, why should I change it? Well, you shouldn't really. So what I find is that when you leave here, it'll be small little things, the tools I use, the techniques I use, little things you'll take away what you're going to try, nothing too drastic. So what you're doing is just fine. We have a manual. We hope you follow the manual, of course. It's been developed through years and years and years and thousands of pack jobs to make it the best way we can for the Javelin, for fit, form and function. Of course, function is the primary thing. You want it to work every time. We like it to look good every time too. So if you have the manual, there's an online manual you can go to. It's interactive. It's got icons for videos, so you can actually see a video of where you're at that point. Or you can go to the tool icon, tell you what tools you're going to need. It's got a compass icon, what tells you why you're there and where you're going to go. Because if you know where you're going, it helps you understand why you're struggling right now. And there's a light bulb, it's tips and tricks. And that's kind of like me talking and saying, this is $1 million move, try this, you're going to love it. So it really is interactive, very, very helpful. And I think if you try it, you'll enjoy it. Anybody use that manual yet? Try it. It's been out for about a year or so. But there's a paper manual, the PDF you can download, or you can go to the website and look at it and stream it. Okay, so today we're going to pack a TJ&K with an Optima 143. And this part you guys pretty much know. So because we've got the time right now, we're going to go through the whole thing. We do recommend a Pro Pack. Anybody not Pro Pack? Maybe yes. If you can't see, please just move around. Make yourself comfortable. If you have questions, fire them at me as we go. If there's something else you want to see, let me know. We'll do it. Okay. If there's any parts you guys struggle on, let me know so I can focus on that and help. You are a quiet bunch like the Americans. Not a beer in the house.
Didn't give time.
Okay. Anybody know any jokes while we do this part? Do you? It's all right. It's not a family show. If you can, if you pick up the free bag and pilot sheet and pass it around, in fact I'm going to show you while I've got time trying to flake this, you're going to see on here, there's a round circle on here, which is the final inspection stamp. And there's also one on the label here. Right there you can see. I'm going to pass that around so you can look at it. If you have these two components and there's no circle and no stamp, you can't use it. It may have been inspected, they may have forgot to put the stamp on. That's pretty much what happens maybe once every 5 years because the quality control is very high and the escape is very low. But if it's not on there, you shouldn't pack it. Send it back to us, we'll send you a new one and go from there, and we will apologise. But please check that's on there before you pack for your customer. While you're doing that, it gives me a chance to play with this. Everything we do when we pack the Javelin system is in preparation for the end result. A lot of people think if I get into the free bag and you sweat and you curse and you kick it and it takes you a couple of hours maybe sometimes with the weight on it to make it better, you think once I've got it in the free bag, you're finished. But you're not, you're only halfway there. And because you kicked it into the free bag, guess what? You've got to kick into the container. So when we pack, we think about the next 2, 3, 4, 5 stages ahead to make sure we're accommodating those properly. So when we do get to that stage, it's actually quite easy. Do you see the sky hook on there?
Why is it sealed down the middle?
Where? Where it's sewn with the bridle attached to the bag. Because it's a molar bag, and that's like a tooth, so it's shaped that way to allow room for the pilot chute, the bridle, the spring. It's been the original design, and it's a little different to pack, of course, with a long split ear. People do pack it with a short split ear, but that's got complications which change what you're doing later on, which make it more difficult. I'm going to show you the only method we really recommend with a long split ear, and if you try that, you're going to find it much easier through the whole packing process. But it's sewn across, so there's nothing in between there, so you can use that space. When you put the canopy down, it's pretty much like a little Cessna landing. Always put the backwards down first in the front. I see people drop the front of the nose of the canopy, and it doesn't work. The lines go loose inside. So bring it down, take your time, bring your arm out to the top. The slide is already quartered. I'm sorry, I've got my back to some of you. So I can just slide it down out the way like so, and I'm ready to continue flaking the canopy. Here we go. So of course we don't bring stuff over from the US because of shipping and the cost. And kind friend Damo supplied this, so it should work pretty well.
You can run from ours.
These yours?
I don't know. Where did you get them?
Damo got them from somewhere. I think he stole them from the guy in the pub.
My favourite sausage. I thought I seen it somewhere. You can't have the scissors like that in the world, isn't it?
Okay, so I pull tension. I can see my lines now, they're getting tension. You see them moving? This is my A's. And if you look at the manual, like you'll see this in a few minutes, if you look at the manual, we'll talk about the E-fold. The E-fold is a fabric behind the D line, which is a stabilizer, and it's like a small little knuckle of fabric which poke up on two sides of a canopy. And on the RSKs and small containers, if you can move that out of the way and clean it from the center, the pop top will sit down a lot easier. I'll show you where that is right now. So the 4 lines on top of the D's make the fold. I bring the D's back into the center, pushing the C's down, and I flake the D out of the way on top of the C, which is the cleanest way to do it. Then right here, if you can see on this side, I'll put my knee above the D. See this seam here, guys? There's the D, there's that seam. I just want to pick that seam up. This is what we call the E-fold. So when you look at the manual, that's what we're talking about. And then what you do is bring your hand up and fold that back out of the way. It's a small little bit of fabric, but it cleans it away from the middle. Make sense? If you don't do it, it's okay. But you're going to find on smaller stuff, it's going to be easier for you to do that. Then just flake the tail as normal. You guys have any other questions right now? Okay, halfway. And we'll do the same on the opposite side. The reason why I start this end and I flick it across is that I found in my earlier days, with big canopies of course, it was hot and sticky. When you put your arm up inside to try and move things out, I was finding it stuck to my arm. And I got shown this technique, and it's really, for me, this is the way to go. That's why I work on the outside. Then I go back in, as you'll see in a few minutes, to clean that up. So my left hand holds the fold, my right hand is in line with the B lines. As I pull this, you can see the lines move. So I keep tension through the canopy. Hold the B's, pick up the C's. As you see them pull down, it comes across. I'll put my back to one side. So now the D's, pretty simple. Find the stabilizer. The 4 lines on top have to be the D's for this side. I pick them up and make my fold. Take my right hand and take the D lines and I push them straight down on top of the C's and clear that out, like so. And then I go right behind the D again and pick out the E fold, which is right here. Do you see that? It just clears that little bit. Do you want to feel how bulky that is? It's not a lot, but it's enough on the small one to make a difference. So we pull that out of the way. Keep the seam up the center, and then dress your tail. If it's your black reserve, it's probably trying to breathe and do some fun stuff right now. Remember, the parachute hasn't got a pulse. It didn't wake up thinking, I'm going to give you a really hard time today. You got to talk nicely to it. Okay, so from here, I'll just go inside. I'm on this side, so I'll work from this side. I'm actually going to take this off before I get myself in trouble. Okay, so I'll start with the A's, and I can look at my 4 bar tacks on the lines and my 4 bar tacks on the canopy. So it's another check again while I'm doing it. I'm actually physically, I'm just looking, I'm not saying it, but for you guys I will, but I'm looking at 8 bar tacks. Every time I touch the line, I'm verifying what I checked earlier. Pull tension, come back to the B's. Again, look at all my bar tacks, they look good. Clean that across. A lot of people drop it straight down at that point because the lines are tight, which is okay. But why not do one step further? Bring the tension through the fold of the canopy, bring the canopy up and bring it down, like so. Again, count your bar tacks, bring it across, put the lines in the center. Finally the D's, and then the control lines, like so. Do the same on this side. Again, count your bar tacks, always verify, don't take anything for granted. Okay. Do the C's, and then the D's. And then I do 8, lots of 8, so I start with my A lines. Again, verifying what I'm doing, bring them together, check my B lines, check my C lines, finally the D's and the control lines, like so. Any questions with that part? Pretty much the same way you guys do, I'm sure. You really can't vary it too much there. So now the slider, we caught the slider before while I was actually pro-packing initially the canopy, so now I can just pull the slider back in. If the slider doesn't want to go back in, guess what? There's probably a problem somewhere. What started before you started packing. So if you're struggling, you need to stop and try and evaluate why you can't bring the slider straight back up. Okay, and that's it. So the next step is going to be the reduction folds. There's many ways to do it. I find this is probably the best way to do it, and I'll explain why. I want to reduce the canopy. I'm sorry my back's to you guys. We do want to reduce the canopy down to the width of the free bag, or slightly smaller. Always work smaller because the canopy is going to grow on you. This one not so much, but the stuff you guys are using, regular PDs or other canopies, will start to kind of get bigger. So a lot of people take all 3 and fold them into the middle, or they take all 3 and fold them under, or they do a combination of both. Kind of, it's not quite so symmetrical, and everything works fine, but I find if you're going to pull away from the middle, you're just going to disturb what you just spent maybe half an hour or so actually getting right. So I fold to the middle, work into the center every time rather than pull away from the middle, because if the lines are down the center, the thing's going to open up perfectly and be fine. So I work in towards the middle, and I'll show you. So with the D fold, because it's the top one, the little trick you want to use is, this is the end of the stabilizer here. Imagine a straight line coming up the canopy. See how curved this is? So I'm just going to take this top part and fold it in line with this, on that fold. The next one I'm going to pick up and fold in, rotate my hand down, switch hands, rotate, and it rolls in. Pick up the lower one, pick up the one above it, slide it in, rotate your hand, And that's my reduction folds done. It's pretty easy, and I didn't pull away from the middle, which is important. Then you can take the stabilizer if you wish, tuck it under the D, and then for the final time, just dress the canopy with the seams, and it's like a trough down there. You can actually feel it drop down, and slide that through there. Any questions? Okay.
Many years ago, there was a rule of different colour canopies packed differently. Is there ever any truth in it? Because they reckon different bulks and dyes.
Different dyes add bulk. Black for me is the worst, then red. Yellow isn't fun, and then it's white, then it's orange. And that's in my experience. I've packed a lot. What I do find as far as the packing method for the Javelin is like a microwave and dash M, or a, which one is it? It's like 135 and down. It'll come to me in a minute. You don't put the first S fold in, because there'll be nothing to go in the ears of the free bag. So that's the only reason I've ever changed a pack job, but they're not very common. And it's a smart 135 and down. Don't put the first S fold in. You're going to find there's nothing for the ear. Above that, go for it. But they're the only two. The Dash M series and the Smarts on the lower end. If you do put the first S fold in, there's nothing for the ear. But the downside to that is that you now, because we're packing in preparation for the next step and the next step and the next step, the downside to not the first S fold is that the grommets are low on the ground. They're not raised up and not brought back. What does that get in the way of?
AD.
Exactly, the AED. Mm-hmm. Okay. Such a quiet group, I can't believe it. I was ready for the hecklers too. But it's early yet. Okay, so the same on this side, guys. There's my stabilizer. I want to fold to that point here. I'm going to bring in the top, hold it up, bring the next fold in, hold it in the center, rotate my hand out, and it just rolls over the seam. Then the last one, of course, like so. And finally, dress the tail for the last time.
Does that stabiliser the S-fold?
No, you can tuck it under, you can leave it, you can S-fold it. It really doesn't matter what you do with that. It's ever what you feel comfortable with. Again, I think maybe what you'll take from here with small little things, there's not a lot you have to really change.
And you wouldn't do any reduction folds in the tail?
No, I'm going to use the Center Celta cocoon.
Not on the
Well, what about
some will do it half fold.
like that? When I do, they will fold 5 bits under and I leave 2 bits on a double chair, wrap everything around.
Mm-hmm. You fold the tail under, then the top cell you bring around.
Yeah.
I just bring the top cell around to everything and leave the tail quite where it's at. The tail be inhibited in the center. You can, that's more of a base patch job, you can bring that in, you know, you can, it's fine, but we've never done it. The way I'm teaching you, again, is developed between 5 master riggers in the last 20 years, 25 years. And between us, we probably packed 30, 40,000 of these. And what we know works is what we teach. So that's why we haven't really adapted that. It's the same thing. We do exactly the same thing. It's cookie cutter. It's really great because the people who get trained at Sunpath pack this way. Everyone packs this way because we know how efficient and how much it's going to work and benefit everybody. So the next thing to do is talk about my tools. You need about 7 tools to pack a Javelin. Well, you can do it with 1. You can do it with a shoelace and a reserve pin if you have to. Hey Jeff, how you doing? This is Jeff Johnson. He's the lead engineer for Sunpath Products. Okay, how are you? Good. So 7 tools typically is what we use. Thank you very much, Jeff. More vodka. He knows. Thanks.
Is that one of the tools?
That's number 8.
That's number 8.
It should be number 1, but that's number 8. Thank you very much. So I have 7 tools, and as I use them, I'll explain what we do. So this one, of course, is a wooden paddle. Everybody has this in their toolkit, of course. But this one never gets used as a pull-up or tension device. Do you understand why that might be? Any reasons? Exactly, because I want to use this to work with the fabric into the free bag, into the container. So that's really going to help me. If I want to use any force, I'm going to use this aluminium one. It's aluminum in America. It's aluminium, and of course you can use that all day long with a pull-up device. So let's start with get it into the free bag. And this is where most people get kind of scared. If it's the first time you've packed with long split ears and your customer's watching, have them go and get a coffee. I used to do that. Come back in half an hour, would you? All right. Okay, so I'm going to make my first S fold, and this fold is in preparation, again, for stacking the parachute properly and getting the AED to sit properly into the container the best you can. We would like the canopy inside the free bag, and the free bag isn't this big. The free bag actually stops on this fold point here, and believe it or not, this length is the same distance as the reserve container. So ideally, if you get it all inside the free bag, it's going to fit in there perfectly. There's some chatter about leaving some out the back, making it light in the ear because that way the riser cover's not loaded. It actually makes it worse because it extends the free bag longer than the reserve container out past the yoke line. And that's when you put the paddle on top of the, we call them dog ears, and take your hammer and try and get the thing to go in the container. It's really the wrong way to do it. So ideally, you want to get all the canopy if it's compatible. If it's not compatible, you shouldn't be packing it, but you want to get all the fabric inside the free bag. If you take your time here, this is where you should spend most of your time, is that you're going to get it down there much, much easier and going to enjoy it. If you rush this part, you're going to struggle down at this end. Okay, so the first S fold. I take the slider grommets and hold them apart. Bring it up, across, and I rotate these grommets back about an inch. Do you see that with tension on my lines? So these stay tight. My grommets are back. They are going to migrate forward. I will have to work them in later on, but it's starting back, which is important. And this is really the square where the AAD is going to nestle into. Okay, I'm going to put my back to you, I'm sorry. Exactly. If you have a dash hand, what? Yeah, 135 and down. No, PDs all day long. Every PD they make. The Smart 135 and down, the Dash and Micro Raven, don't put the first fold in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speeds are quite short in the body as well.
Speeds. I pack speeds the same way. I haven't packed that many, but I have packed quite a few, some in Germany and some in the US. Okay, so from here, I just bring the tail down, tight to the bottom, and I'm working on the foundation of the free bag now. Imagine this is actually square. I'll start with the right side. I'll pick up the seam of the center cell, bring it down and around and under everything, make a nice square corner. A lot of people push this in. It's not going to help you with the next fold because this is your platform or your blueprint to put the next fold on top of. Okay, so do that, put your knee on it, do the same on this side. I find the seam, make a little pinch, bring it down and around. Nice and square like so. Okay, now the fun begins. Take the air out the fabric, take the center cell, wrap it around everything, the reduction folds, but not the nose, and work it up and down, under your knee, back down, switch arms. Again, be narrower than what you want. Okay, so my left hand's free, so I'll start with my left side. 1, 2, 3. Over the finger, there's the S fold, in. Switch hands. 1, 2, 3. Over the finger, there's the S fold, in. If you count 4, you should stop. I'm not joking, I've seen it. Okay, so from here, this is the difference. We go with a long split ear. We're going to actually destroy the pant job pretty much in your eyes. If you've never done it before, I recommend you try it. Not just once, but persevere until you get it because it's really going to help you. Okay, so the best thing you can do here is lock your wrists to your knees. We're looking for this grommet point, which is here. So if these start to walk forward, the grommet moves forward. It won't go into the free bag. Okay, follow the seam, take your time. Don't move fabric from the outside, work back into the center. And you're trying to find the center cell. Nose. And there it is. Anybody ever tried this before? You have, yeah, good. So you have? Good. So bring it back the best you can, as far as you can. I do it twice. It's good for the forearms, you get used to it, the pain goes away. But if you're packing all day long, it does get a little bit painful. So bring it back, like so. I take the top 3 or 4 inches here, and I start working the center cell back on itself till tension comes up from my knees here. So it's tight this way, and I just hold the top and I roll back down. It's like a modern day molar strap. Does that make, you see that? It doesn't.
You've actually got the nose cell in
The
there as
top
well.
part rolls down. The whole nose is right through the bottom right now. Then I take my knee and put it into the center. And I treat each ear like a regular parachute. So I can start with the left. It doesn't matter, you can start left or right. And this is what freaks people out when you split the canopy like so, but it's not going to do any harm. So imagine this is the center cell again, and just bring it around the top. A lot of people get very physical. They start to sweat, start to get tired. It's warm in here, but be gentle with it. The fabric will lie where you actually put tension. So the best thing you do here is make sure you hold this area here with the top skin like that, so it holds it in place. And be gentle with it. Bring it up. So I'm going to take my thumb where I put the roll fold, which is actually in line with the grommet. And this distance here is doubled, so from the tail to here, the trailing edge to here, then my thumb to here is the second S-fold. And I can adjust my hands as I go. So I'm going to push down, I'm going to pull straight up. Some people twist. It's not any good because it's not going to help you when you go back to the lower platform here. Bring it back, adjust your hands as necessary, and place the ear down. Do the same on this side. You guys who do the long split here, so you guys have success with it? Yeah? You're pretty happy with it? Keep going?
Yeah, it just seems weird because it's like how I was taught.
Yeah.
And we went to 2 folds and then it got instantly.
Sure.
What's the benefit of the long splitters?
We keep a whole channel through the middle. It makes room now for the pilot chute and the bridle. So instead of the canopy and the free bag getting higher and higher as we go through the patch job process, it's all contained in the free bag. Okay, push your thumb down, bring it straight back up. Adjust your hands you need to. I know that's the length of my... So my fold comes straight down on the back and on the front like so. It doesn't twist because the free bag's square. Okay, they should be about the same. Now the ear, you've only got this much area for the ear here. So I recommend you make it as small as you can and choke it off, because this is where you're going to... where we all struggle pretty much. There's no magic really. So make the fold, take my knee off, up, in. There's the nose. Do you see it? Back down, same with this side. Choke it off. Make the fold. Off, up, in. There's the nose. Now if I put this on top, it should be the same size. Ideally, that's what you want. Is that the goal is to put the free bag around the canopy, not the canopy into the free bag. Okay, so I start with the right ear first. Get as much as you can in there. I push the bag to the floor and under, and then get the left side in as far as you can. Hold the canopy, pull the bag around, and keep pulling the bag over the canopy, like so. You should probably all go this way now because I'm going to be back to you for quite a while, if you don't mind. Sorry. No, where it's folded and cocooned into the long split ear, the bottom's the part that's going to catch the wind first, where it S folds around, so it's already really exposed.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you can see here the grommets are moved forwards, which is normal. This area here is going to work out for this space we have here. This is typically where I get with every pad job. It's nice if you can get a bit closer, but when you have the large Optimas, it gets pretty tight. But it's okay because you can get it from here. So push the grommets back. There's the crowd we wanted.
The reason why you did
Okay, this safety stone. Let's talk about the safety stone. Why do you think that Sunpath will not allow a master rigger in any country in the world to build one of these? Even though they can, but they're capable. Why don't we do that? Any ideas? It's a critical component, yeah. And we find when we buy the rolls of the elastic itself, it changes, the variance in the roll changes a lot. So we actually test every one. So you can't go down to the local fabric store and get some because it won't be anywhere close to this. So we recommend that you don't do that. If it's broken, please change it, give us a call. But don't try and make it yourself. It's not really good. Okay, so I'm going to put the bridle in. When I take the first line group, I'm actually going to slide this forward because what can happen, if I pull the lines tight together now, the grommets are going to shoot forward, and I don't want to do that.
Sorry, Tom, when you say you test all the
Safety stows.
safety stows, that's once they're completed? Is that
Once they're complete.
Once they're built, you...
Yeah, they've got a final inspection. They have a rack and a weight they hang on there. And there's a no-go gauge, a no-go gauge, red and green. And if it falls outside of that, it tells us to work on the elastic, find out why it's changed, change the tolerance when we sew it together. We have to work with the roll sometimes because we have so much of it, we can't just throw it away.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come into spec, we won't use it.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of it. Okay. Wonderful. So this is where the long split ear is going to pay off because we actually have a gap through the middle here which we're going to massage out to help us later on.
Can I just ask something on the stow? I believe from years and years and years ago when I started, one of the original concepts was that if one side hangs up, the other side will release.
Mm-hmm.
And with that method, if the first side hangs up, the second side will not release.
This method?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because if that first side hangs up,
Oh, if it hangs
no way
up.
for it, yeah, for it to go. I've seen people do it, I've never done it myself, where they brought the line stones up and split them on either side. So if whichever side hangs up, the other one will always release.
Do you know many what have hung up? Because I've never heard of one.
Have Sunpath ever looked at it?
We've never had one of, as far as I'm aware, hang up, and that's the truth. I do understand what you're saying. If that one doesn't go, the amount of force on the pilot chute when it goes, sustained force is about an average of 96 to 100 pounds within peak loads. Peak load, and it sustains about 40 pounds. So if it bounces off your foot and goes, it goes to 40 pounds and increases as you fall away. It's designed to come off. I've never heard it not releasing on either one, even on the military ones.
I remember it in the briefing you got when it came out in the early 1980s, I think it was.
On the Javelin?
No, it was general. I think it might have even been one of the races.
Probably jump shack because they do theirs separate with rubber bands, and that's got its own complications.
Well, and it was to get round the rubber bands. It was if one side
Yeah.
comes up, the other side will release. But it
Sounds like
to
a
me,
market employee.
Logic, I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It only works if the second side hangs up. But if you split your stows and go either way, it would do.
Yeah.
But
That works for the racer. Honestly, we're pretty transparent with Sunpath. If there was an issue, of course we'll tell everybody so we can actually fix it and, of course, address it. I've never heard of that at all for all the years and all the people I've known rig with us and, of course, our customer feedback. So I don't think it's a concern for the Javelin. Yeah. So from here, because we have the long split ear, we can actually work in the free bag with our soft paddle. It's not got any dings or cracks and you didn't hit the dog with it, nothing silly like that. Because if you did, you would actually damage the fabric. So because of my habit, I'm going to start with facing you guys. Actually, you're not going to see this at all unless you guys move. So pick the bag up on its side. This is higher than the free bag itself, so I will start by pushing this down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the paddle into the free bag. We'll take the paddle into the lower ear, push it back, come back into the first S-fold and push it back again, like that. That's the idea. So it's not just kind of shooting in the dark. So go in, make sure you can see the paddle at all times, rotate into the ear. Do you see it inside the ear? Push in that direction. Push the ear down, come back, and then you can put it into the first S fold, which is here, and push it in. See how the canopy starts to go into the free bag without struggling too much? Bring it down, pick up it, and turn it around. Push it down. Again, I find this side a little more tricky. It always is, I don't know why. Find the ear, push it down, come into the first S fold, push it back in. Bring the bag back around. Don't keep going around.
Why?
Unless you don't like the person. So again, be aware that you don't keep spinning the bag, of course, and just take your time. Like I said, the hard bit's over. This is where you relax and know that because you're following these steps, next steps 9, 10, 11, and go pretty well for you. You guys have any questions? Cheating? Cheating? It's easy. It's really easy. So here we go. Because of the long split ear, we can go into the middle. Now we can prepare the gap we have for the AED, the bridle, and the pilot chute, and also the sky hook. See how I can work the fabric away? I can go into the ear, down there, push that down. I'm going to this side, locate the ear, and push it down. So I have a big hole here now, which I'm going to work. You see my hand goes in there quite well. That's where the pilot chute, the bridle, and then here there's room now because of the molar for the sky hook and the continuation of that process.
Doesn't working with paddle about stretch material because it's very delicate material on optimums? Few optimums
It's a good question.
For a sale about 2 years ago, which had a lot of stretch marks.
Did I pack it?
Because of the backing of the paddle, I suppose.
I haven't seen it. We did a lot of that research. We actually packed them, take them out, look at them. And I haven't found any stress because we're actually putting this into the fold we created on the floor. We're manipulating the fabric, of course, and again, it's up to your discretion if you want to use this technique or not. But in the thousands and thousands and thousands we've done, we found it,
Like with the normal F111, it's very much stronger.
It's more robust, yeah. But
this one is very sensitive, especially for boat with
it is
fairly sharpish objects.
And well, it's not sharp.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, like very thin and
yeah.
Very.
I've honestly never found any issues when we actually re-inspect the canopies. We do it quite a lot. We have a huge demo fleet, so we inspect them pretty much quite often because they get used. But I do understand your concerns, and if you don't wish to try this way, it's okay not to. There's other ways of achieving the same goal.
There was a few canopies for sale, Optimums with stretch marks, I know.
Yeah.
About this back in my day.
There's other reasons you can get that fabric, or we call it color separation, when you can see the weave and it changes direction. There's quite a few things that can cause that too. Okay, so I'll go in here, not for the final time, but again, I'm pushing on the folds, which I kind of made earlier, making that hole. And then, because we want the free bag closed, put your knee in the center and rotate that in. So now you can see that it closes up pretty good. And that's what you're looking for. And do the same on this side. And as you can see, every time you touch it, it closes back up in the middle. So you have to work it all the way through as you're closing the container for the best success. Okay, good. Now a line protector. Plenty of time. Anything odd that you see there, guys? Anything odd, different?
Not the Cypress line.
Exactly, that's good. Cypress recommend to use the thin. Yeah. The reason why we can get away with a £1,000 Spectre, one is that the AED is already, the Cypress loop's already gone through the AED, the cutter. It's on the floor plate, so you haven't got to thread this through the AED cutter. And then if you use a £1,000 or finger traps and line into the line you use from Cypress, it makes it wider, so there's less stress on the loop when you put the temporary pin in. I found that over the years, people who don't clean their pins or buff them out or get new ones pretty much, if this gets damaged through incorrect use with cranks and tools and technique, this can actually cut the fibres of the loop. And I know an instance when a guy from Qatar on the demo team was reserve fired on the exit of the aircraft because of the rigging technique used in a brand new system. So this here can do a lot of damage if you're not careful, and incorrect technique also causes damage. So we're at the stage here where we use a line protector. I have one, some people have two. This one's big enough to go across all the free bags we use at some part of the course. There's two ways of doing it. You can go underneath or you can go on top. If you go on top, when you come across, when you finish, you just keep going. If you go underneath, you can actually disturb the lines. So I choose to go on top. Any questions? Okay. Okay. Let's fold the, let's fold the lines. Okay, always bring it on top of itself, so it's the first one to pay out. Now, some people use their feet, some people use tools or short paddles for this. Whatever technique you guys use is okay. I've never done that type of work.
When you do the first fold, is there a difference if you go diagonal from a stone?
You can go
or
diagonal.
straight down?
You can go diagonal or down and across. I try to go down and across because you're trying to keep the bulk even as you go across, especially on the small ones, but it doesn't make much difference. The main thing is that you actually rotate on top, so it's the first one to pay out so the lines don't cross each other for deployment because it's high speed.
You don't, it doesn't matter if you push the lines all the way to the corners and then to the edge, or
No, I try to fill the pocket as much as I can, but I don't bring it right to the edge. Just like so. I like to get as much line in the tail pocket as I can. You can always pull a little bit out if you wish to. It saves anything getting snagged in the container. But again, it's up to you. Like I'll take that little bit and I'll put it inside. And if I need it, I can always get it back out. So again, when you take off the line protector, just make sure there's no lines anywhere near Velcro. You've only got to show Velcro to a line set and it will get fuzzy. It hasn't got to touch it. So just be careful as you do this. Then I can go straight across the top because it's not underneath. It makes it easier. You guys do that on top? Yeah, sorry?
Got two go separate.
You have two separate. The reason why I don't have two is one more tool to count, that's all. That's really the only reason. I used to have two. Again, as you can see, I'm kind of slowing down. We've got a lot of time for the class, so it allows time for questions and explanations. Come on. It's always when people are watching it goes wrong. It's true. Someone put another knot in it for me, I think. Really, what's going on down there? Just, again, talk amongst yourself for 10 minutes.
It's time for coffee, isn't it?
Yeah, you can edit this, can't you?
We're not going to, this is going live on YouTube.
Infamous. Always make sure you know where you put your tools. Just don't chuck them to one side. Be careful where they are so you can count them later on. Okay, so the next thing would be the cypress loop itself. All right, there's three main reasons why I highly recommend you change the cypress loop. So what would they probably be? There's many more, but there's three main ones.
stretch over time.
So you would change it so the length, the correct length?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So it gets worn with a temporary pin.
It can, so it's new every time.
You know
So-
it's done correctly because the last one.
Exactly.
Keeps everything, because you use the unstretched one,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps everything in place.
Exactly. So the loop's the right length. It's brand new, so it's not damaged from the previous rigger. And for me, the biggest thing is that you put it through the cutter. You didn't rely on somebody else who was having a bad day to forget that part. You know what I mean? So take ownership of the whole thing for you and your customer. Take pride in your work. Make sure you go through. It's happened where, I say this because there's been a rigger where they didn't go through the cutter, and the Skydiver died. So make sure you go through the cutter. So don't allow anybody else to do that for you. Do it yourself. And if you're going to do it, start with a new loop because it will stretch, you're quite right. And it'll never go back the same, and it's in good condition. So that's really what I have to say about that. So there's three main things. You made it, it's brand new, and you put it through the cutter. Okay, make sense? Okay, I'm just going to grab some water so I can keep talking, if you don't mind. In fact, this one here, I made earlier, and I kind of marinated it with the silicone. You guys ever seen this stuff? You already felt it? It's very, very slippery, my friend, so be careful with it. I'm going to get it to you.
Don't get bad ideas about it, okay?
Usually when I make some loops at a time and then just put them in a bag with the silicone dabbed around them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like that,
Yeah, it's fine. You're going to find it's really going to help in combination with
I just
wider.
buy pre-made ones. They come already lubed.
Yeah.
I'm just lazy to make it.
Mine come lubed too because we get them from Airtech. But I still throw a technical dollop of that in there and massage it in because I'm hoping to pin every time, temporary pin, and finally pin once. So the less I disturb that loop with a temporary pin, the better. And I don't want to struggle, you know. Thank you very much. And again, in combination with this being wider, it makes it much easier to put the final pin in. Either way, it's much better. So the loop length is 53 millimeters to 56 millimeters for the Javelin with this sky hook. In the old days, it was 2 inches, 50 millimeters, and I would pre-stretch them. I thought it was the way to go, but really it's not. So I don't load the loop with stress anymore. I allow it to be natural, and it will just find its way through as I pack the parachute and close the container as such. So I don't pre-stretch them anymore. Some people do. I don't think you need to. But if you start out at 56, 58, if you're not too sure and you're getting used to this new technique, start a bit longer because you will start to break things, especially your components, if you go too small too quick. So if you start with a 3-inch loop at the moment, don't go home and try a 2-inch loop. Just come down slowly, try some new techniques, and you should find it goes together pretty well. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to put my back to you guys for a few minutes, if you don't mind. I'm keeping this out for a reason. I'll show you in a few moments. Okay, so it's quite springy. All the plastic, the reinforcing in the yoke area, it's quite a lot to deal with. Some people put a clamp on here, which is great if you have a clamp. I've never used a clamp. So I just hold it out the way. Get the container flat on the floor the best you can. These are called dog ears. They're not dog ears, of course, but in the industry, at some part, these are what we call dog ears. So just make sure they're folded out, because if they're inside and you continue, they're really difficult to get back out later on. Again, I can check my loop. I'm through the cutter. I'm good to go. So then I would just gently hold the risers, pick up the bag, and rotate it to the back. I stand the free bag up with my forearm, and then I lay my risers. I start with the left side in place, keeping them nice and tight. Switch hands. Keep it tight. Pull tension like this. When you put your knee on, they should stay tight through the whole packing process. I know you can get the paddle later on and put them back in, but then you can dislodge and fire the toggle prematurely or things like that, so it's best not to. Then you can just put these flaps in between your knees. I found the risers out, so the rear riser with the brake toggle on will go onto the floor plate and the front riser will go to the outside. Like so. Do you guys see that? For bulk distribution, yeah. Okay. Then take my pull-up cord, and have you ever seen it where the closing loop has gone around the cutter like this? You guys ever come across that? It happens because when they put the free bag down, they're allowed to push it backwards. It's really simple to avoid. It's a shame. We saw 3 last year, and it's not necessary. So when you put the pull-up cord through, just hold it tight so it can't go down and around the cutter. Then just drop the bag in. The mistake you make here is pushing the bag into the back of the container. You don't want to do that. It's not going to help you. Drop the free bag straight down on top of the grommet of the floor plate and line that up. Again, you can check underneath, make sure you haven't gone around it, and you're through the cutter. Like so. Now you can work the free bag into the container. This is quite long. I'm going to use the binding tape here to push down with my fingers to get to this seam along the bottom here. I'm going to work that down. So this binding tape edge of the free bag, I'm going to push down with my fingers to try and get it along this edge here. So take your time here again. I'll move the lines to my right as such. This is the line protector. And you're trying to work in the back corner. So get this back into the free bag now, so it's less to do. Push the binding tape down into that corner on both sides. Do you see I'm taking my time working it down? Can you put your hand here for me? I want to show you something. Put your hand like this. So now take your wooden paddle, because the ears have come together again. And you can take this side here, push the whole mass into your hand. You feel it going down into that corner. And put your hand here. Do you feel it?
Yeah.
That's what you want to feel when you push that across if you try that technique. Because you open up the hole again for the pilot chute and the bridle. And that's exactly the place where you want to put it. Now here, you can see it's kind of curved. You want to get straight through there. That's going to allow the plastic to come down properly and sit without buckling up. So again, dress the canopy, just push it across. Like so. Hello. Okay, so now the bridle. Is everybody packed a skyhook, or is that new for some people? Is a skyhook new for some people? Okay. So we pack everything the same now. If it's got a skyhook or not, the bridle railing is exactly the same. So the new manual supersedes everything else you've read. And if it's a Legacy, the older Javelin, the original, or it's an Odyssey without a skyhook, still pack the bridle the same way, please.
Don't do a little tuck under the bag. But
No. I've seen the whole bridle put under the floor plate. Oh. Yeah, don't do that. Do exactly the way you're seeing it done now. No. Pretty much, a lot of people say, well, some parts would like you to try this and some parts would like you to do it this way. And that's, Chinese whispers. I mean, things get changed. If you're never sure, just give us a call and we'll let you know exactly how we'd like it done. But we've never done that. Okay. So there's a lot of bulk here. There's like 3 layers plus the type 4. So I just take one across like so. That's all it really needs. And then I put the green loop into the channel before I do any temporary pinning. Some people put the pull-up cord through and temporary pin it. It kind of locks down the plastic and makes it more difficult. Let me just get some snips and some thread. Excuse me. Keep sharp objects away. Okay, so there's a diagram here showing you take the red the red loop and bring it across the top over the green and slide it onto the skyhook itself, like so. So it comes across the top like it is here and then slides straight down.
I have seen that packed underneath, regardless of the fact that it's a diagram.
Yeah.
Is there any problem if
It's probably going to work perfectly. The reason why we went across the top was in our testing phase with UPT, we were going underneath every time, and then one of the malfunctions when we were spinning on our backs in a certain rotation with a high-performance parachute, it would prematurely flick off. So we couldn't achieve that part of the test, so it's like, let's try this. So we put it on top, and that stopped the rotation of the scope coming off, flicking off the actual red lanyard. So that's why we changed it. It's still probably going to work. Even though you've gone the right way, if you take the rig at the end of the day and throw it into the closet or the back of the car, there's a chance it could come off then anyway. So always be gentle with your equipment, of course, and make sure you take care of it. So we tie this with safety thread, is that correct? Any reasons why it's safety thread? I'll tell you why. When I was in Brazil, one of the riggers asked me, he was the head of the federation, and asked me what this Lexan plastic broke at. And that's a really weird question. So I asked him some more questions. Why are you asking me why it breaks? Well, I opened up a tandem reserve the other day to pack it, and it was tied with 5-cord. 5-cord is the harness thread we use to 40. So it's designed that way for a reason, and it needs to work. So you had to get out at low altitude because the plane's on fire, or the pilot says, get out, I've run out of gas. So at 2,000 feet, whatever, you get out, you fire the reserve, and it works normally, sequentially. So it has to work in that situation. It's also got to work when the main parachute is actually the big pilot chute itself, and the skyhook's attached to the risers, and it works then. So it has to work two ways. It has to release, also has to work when it's activated. And they were thinking, I guess, well, the guys want to keep it on, so let's try and keep it on longer so it doesn't come off prematurely. Well, sometimes it has to come off prematurely. So if you have any ideas for R&D or any questions or tinkering in the back shed, that's good, but maybe give us a call first because we probably thought about it and why not to do it. Because after we found out there was 5-cord used, the next day when the bulletin went out, we found out there was fishing line and wax thread. So it's pretty real and pretty scary because you can't land a pilot chute, and they would have. So please be aware, there's a reason why we do certain things, and we don't have to always kind of beef it up. There's not always a good reason to beef it up. It's meant to fail at a certain point. Okay, how you doing, guys? All right, so from here, I will tie the loop on with safety thread. Again, talk amongst yourselves. It might take me a few seconds. And the lights above me. Any questions? No? You guys are a quiet bunch for the English. I can't believe it. It's like being in America. Not Australia for sure, but it's like being in America. Those guys are rowdy and there's tools everywhere. You don't know where to look.
Have you had no skyhook when you're folding the bride? Or
You do it the same way.
same way, 3 and then 1?
Exact, and this flap goes back on top.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. There was a short time where we tucked the flap under the floor plate, but after trial and error we decided not to do that. So just do it the same way, but just don't use the skyhook. Okay. Leave a little excess for your tail. Always get rid of your snips or sharp objects around the parachute. Just know where they are. Okay, so now, with that being done, I can go back through here, and I'm going to make room for my skyhook sub flap. This is called the skyhook sub flap. This is called the pin flap, and this is called the pin protector flap. It's kind of a lot for 3 flaps, but that's how we just talk about it. So I want to make sure that goes all the way down with my closing loop as much through as I can get it now. I want to get it through as much as I can. I'm gently going to put my knee on the plastic. I don't want to break the plastic. If I break the plastic, you can buy a retro kit what slides on, and you should. You can't leave it broken. So be gentle when you do this. I'll put my hand in that hole I made earlier. I'm going to push the free bag this way and pull the wearer's left side flap across. This is the first flap I'm going to close. It's always the wearer's left. It could be the right, but to be uniform worldwide, it was just easier to designate the left side. It could have been right. So we're going to go with this one first. So as you push away, you're going to bring the flap across. If you do the second S-fold like a vector, you're going to have a really hard time doing this bit. So get as much through as you can. Make sure the dog ear is out. Push it away. And down. Do the same with this side. I use my paddle for this one. My arms aren't as strong as they used to be. Hold the bridle flat, push it away, bring it across. And pull through the loop. You shouldn't need a tension device on these two flaps. It's not really necessary. So finally, for the last time, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to move the fabric out of the way so I can get these two to go down flat. And there's the hole I've made for the pilot chute. Like so. Check your sky hook still tight, it's still attached, it's going the right way, you're good to go. Any questions there? No? Okay. The goal here for me is that when I finish, I want the base of the pilot chute to sit right here. My pet peeve is when I see these little folds like this at the last minute, and it creates a lot of bulk, and it's just, you can just do it again. Even in a class like this, it might take me 3 or 4 times to get it exactly how I want. Don't go cutting stuff if you don't know what you're doing, please. Okay. So, take out the twists. Now I should probably follow the fold it's got and see where we go, but I didn't pack this last time, so I'm not quite sure. I go on one side. People do fan off at the beginning, but I find it's just easier to separate it later on. Again, here you have a trifold. You have 6 layers as it goes through into the reserve pilot chute, so you don't have to split it equally if you don't want to. You guys see okay? Can you still hear okay? My wonderful voice. Okay. So you see that's longer, not quite far enough. So I'm going to lose a little bit more in those folds. So I'm going to take a little bit more, again just a small bit, and go from there and keep trying.
How far down can the folds go?
I don't like to go past here. I normally start between the grommet and this V point, and I stay in the middle. But if I come down to here, which is where I'm pretty much at now, that's as far as I want to go. The bridles have a plus or minus 2-inch tolerance in production. That way we can not reject everything we build. But typically, these things always are the same measurement. So once you get it right, it's the same bridle length every time, regardless of the size of the canopy. Again, I still need to go another little bit. Okay, that's good.
Horizontally across the top,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the V that you're
Yeah.
at this point.
On the Javelin, I've seen it too. I think in the early days when the Javelin first got introduced, it was by Mike Fury done that way. I've seen it that way. I haven't found it in a manual. I've gone through all the manuals historically, and I haven't quite seen it that way. But that's just kind of old school, and it's going to work just fine. But what it does, it creates another barrier to hide the pilot chute later on, because everything we've done from the beginning was to make room for the service inside the unit, inside the container. So we have a hole here now to accept this and the bridle and the AAD pretty much. And if we start layering it, it's like a Subway sandwich. You see, if you start making the parachute stack on top of each other and keep going, what's got to happen? The loop's got to get longer to allow the flaps to make it to the grommet. When the loop gets longer, the pop top sits higher, and the loop starts to spread with the tension, and the grommets don't line up. So it's, when the loop's longer, if you look at this, the reserve flap here is attached to the main flap. So when the loop's longer, this migrates towards the bottom of the container, and then how it affects how the main closes. So there's a reason for it. So if you do stack it, that's okay, but I wouldn't recommend it. There's a reason why we do it this way, because it keeps everything where it should be. Does that answer your question? Okay. I always put my paddle across there to hold it. If you look on top of the cap, there's a runoff stitch with a binding, the runoff binding here, and there's opposite that will be the runoff for the pinstripe if you have a pinstripe. Ideally, you want to hide that between one of these 2 points here, under the pin flap, or we call this the A, B, C, D, and E, or the A and E flap. It's just cosmetic. It won't affect function if you can see it, but if it was at some path and the rig had finished, I'd have to pack it again because it wouldn't leave our company. So make sure it's how you want it. Yeah, the bar's really high now. Yeah. I'm like the Gordon Ramsay of the rigging world. I'm just like, no, do it again. Sometimes I swear. So But there's those little things, attention to detail. What's important, I think, is in your career that you should use attention to detail. It's going to save you back quite a lot. So come through, of course. Okey-dokey. Any questions, guys? Because we have, you mind if you just move a second? I want to see the clock. We have a good 40 minutes. And we won't take that long, but okay. So all I want to really do here is just stand the pilot chute straight up above the grommet. That's all I want to do. I don't want to fold the bridle, hold it with my knee, trying to make sure it's all going to work for me and fall off and lose balance. It doesn't make any sense. So get the bridle the length you want first, and then continue that way. Check your runoff. Mine's moved, of course. When I look through here, what things am I looking for? There's two major things I'm looking for. What are they?
Straight down.
Yeah, exactly. And
Not catching anything.
yes,
Bridle hasn't moved.
correct. I can actually look down there. My primary thing is making sure the pull-up cord is going straight, not around. And I can center the base of the spring over the grommet because I just stood it straight up. There's no fabric or bridle in the way, cocking it off to one side, making it difficult. So I can now center that up so my next few flaps close much easier. Anybody ever patch on a hardwood floor or a tile floor and the rig starts to go that way when you're pushing the spring and you start to sweat and you even want the dog to come and help you? I have.
Happens with mirages a lot. Spring is on a bit like that.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Trowels across the hanger.
I got it. But you know, it's so easy to fix. If you take your knee and stick it straight on the pin flap, it doesn't go anywhere. You're glad you came now, aren't you? And that was worth the investment. That was worth the investment. I know it.
Years of chasing it
I flew all this way to tell you that part. But no, it's a simple thing, but believe me, it makes a lot of sense. And I've been there waiting for the wall to come up really quick. It's about to look. It's like, no.
Hoping nobody's watching.
Yeah, can you go get a coffee? Yeah. It's true. Go get a coffee. Come back in an hour or two. Okay, so push the pilot chute down at this angle. Now you would think that I couldn't talk at this, but I'm pretty practiced at it, so I can keep talking. So I'm going to push down at an angle. I'm going to feel for the container. There it is there. And I want all the fabric, the mesh included, outside of the pilot chute pop top, like so. I put my knee on top. My left foot's gone to sleep. That's weird. It's the first time. Okay. Wrong end. And this is my tension device, which I'm going to use for the first time. Bring it down. The technique you're going to see me use, and I give credit to everybody who's actually helped me learn and do better with packing, because we're all good, we can always continue learning, right? Is that Dave Ruffle from Florida, another English guy, another Brit, developed this. We were back in the 90s, we were trying to outpack each other. I mean, to millimeters, it was ridiculous. And he came up with this method to get the pilot chute as low as possible, the pop top down, the bulk to the back. And since then, we've all packed the same thing the same way, because it's just perfect. So you can see my hands low down on the crank. It's not up here. If your rigger has got a bar that long, he's on the end of it, it's probably a problem. So, I need to find this bit. Take out the temporary pin quite easily. Make sure all the fabric's out. And as I turn the crank, I'm going to tap at the same time, very gently, just till the loop comes through. And all I want to do is see enough loop to get the pin in. I don't want to overstretch the loop at this point. So, here, and there's my loop. It's quite easy. And my hand's at the bottom of the crank, because everything's lined up where it should be. And it goes in. Now, just say I was packing for you and there was no AAD. And I got to here and you come in the door, I just brought an AAD, I got a good price, can you put it in? Absolutely, I can put it in. But what else am I going to do at the same time?
Put it through the Cypress loop.
But what am I going to change? What will I change? The loop. Because I know if I open that up, that loop's really too long to get it back to here. And here I've got the fingernail test. It's down, and I can get my fingernail underneath where it's touching the reserve side flaps. If I open it up now, it's going to stretch. It's already stretched, actually. Put the AED back in, and then I won't get the same kind of fit here, which I'm looking for. So spend a few minutes then, change it. Otherwise, you're going to get to here again and go, God, I wish I had changed it 10 minutes ago. It's worth it, believe me. So from here, it's pretty simple. Always know where your tools are. There's nothing worse when someone borrows one of your tools and doesn't tell you and you're up all night looking for it. Okay, so from here, I'm going to put my knee in see that big hole we've still got for this pilot chute to go into? It's really good. We actually made that earlier on, of course, and we kept working it to get to this point. Again, if it goes in the free bag and you work easily, take your time, when you get to the container, it's going to go easily. If you struggle in the early stages, you're going to struggle in the final stages. So think ahead of why you're doing it and where you're going. It's really important. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do, I'm going to do, is put your knee on the back of the pop top. It's going to kick it up like this, not so high, but it's going to bring it up, allowing me to start bringing the fabric to the back. So this is how we did it. That kicks it up. Bring it across your leg like so. I'm sorry, if you just want to put your finger there so people can see, that would be great. Do you mind? Thank you. Go down, under, and around. Down, under, and around. So down, under, and around. Down, under, around. Down, under, and around. And keep going till there's nothing left. Just like so. That's it. Now, excuse me, thank you very much. Because the pin's on this side, I'll work this side. I put my knee on here, lift it up, bring it across your leg. Take your right hand, push the bridle down. If you cheat from the front, you're going to create bulk. It's not going to work. Work from the back, work with a mesh. So bring the mesh around, just like so. Don't come from here, stay in the back. And just slide it like this. Can you guys see okay? See how the F111's following? And it will. And the only place it's touching is where it's sewn by the operator to the cap. Do you see that? That's just where it's sewn. Push down. And then do the same on this side. Now, turn the pin. When you turn the pin, it tightens the loop up. Make sure you put the pin back where you found it, otherwise you'll be struggling. Do the same thing. Again, bring the fabric over your leg, like so. Push this down, and just stay here. Don't come from here, it creates bulk. Just stay there, bring the mesh, and be confident because the F111 is going to follow. Do you see that? It's just where it's sewn now. There's nothing under here at all, apart from a single layer of F111. And I push that down with my knee. Make a T, make a loose T with a pilot chute. We're going to address that later on. Don't get physical and tight with it because all the fabric's going to pull out. Like so. Any questions with that part? Anybody tried that before? Try it, you'll like it. Okay, so now, as I go through the A&E flap, I'm going to push the pop top up about 1/4 inch, maybe not quite 1/2 inch, 10 millimeters maybe. I'm going to push that up as I pull this flap down so that both grommets kind of line up like so. Because I'll put this back to where it was. And I'm going to push, sorry, any questions?
Yeah, what about when they rotate material?
Twist it?
Yep.
That was done by our manual for a while, and we superseded it. We didn't like it. It creates bulk. I wouldn't say hesitation as much. I heard about it, but I never saw that. I did a lot of video documentary and timing of the deployment and didn't see that, but I found it created bulk and it wasn't necessary. It was another engineer with a different technique, what he uses, and this is what we've done since I was trained. And we went back to that original method. So you can if you wish to, but it's not necessary. But I do find it creates more bulk. It doesn't get the fabric all the way to the back. Do you understand what the gentleman's talking about? So then, bring this flap down and put your knee back onto the pin flap so the rig doesn't go anywhere at all, and just push the pop top up that little bit. It all helps. Take your tension device. Here we go for the sales pitch. CPS, Complete Parachute Solutions. They did provide me with that beautiful rigging kit back there you can see. It's in a great big Pelican box. It's got everything but a sewing machine in it, and of course I'm very fortunate to get that. You can purchase them from them if you wish, and we're not here to sell at all, but that's where that came from if you have any ideas and you want a bigger rigging kit like that, especially if you travel, it's nice. Okay, so again, I'm going to put my knee on the pop top right here so it actually holds it down. Tap as I turn. Again, my hand's at the bottom of the of the crank. You do, again, if you have a bar or you see somebody like this and they're hanging off it, stop them, please. It's not necessary. Okay, give it a tap. Take out the temporary pin. Should come quite easily. Bring it through just enough. The light's pretty poor in here. Okay.
Don't you use pack and play?
No, I never have. Because I've never talked with one. And I guess the argument to that is, well, you can break grommets, and I appreciate that. I've never broken a grommet. I'm in the right place if I do, of course I can fix it. But honestly, if I had, I'd tell you, I've never broken one. It's down to technique and not just tension. I find that riggers around the world now rely on those tension devices you can crank down. They don't feel the canopy or what's going on anymore. They just use force and muscle. And I think there's a lot of that finesse is lost, because I think it's really the technique is what gets it where it needs to be. But yeah, you can if you wish. I find it limits you because you've got one direction you can go pretty much with a pin. But I was never trained with one, so I don't use one. But it's okay if you do, of course. So from here, the next step would be to put the dog ears in. So I'll stand the rig up. This is the final time you can actually get in here and look, and you can inspect that the safety tie is still on the skyhook, the red lanyard is still on the skyhook, and you can continue to close the rig, which is great. So you can see that before you actually finish it up. If it's not there in some way, like the thread broke, open it back up, put the thread back on. I know it takes a bit longer, but through right technique, it's probably not going to break. I think only one time I've broken the thread. Okay, so here, you take the dog ear with a paddle and then push it towards the reserve risers and down the back of the free back. Just like that, that's all you have to do. If you're here with a hammer and you're doing this and I'll come back tomorrow and try again when I'm not so tired, maybe you should try something different in the pack job because it's too long. It's probably too much out the bottom of the free bag. Does that make sense? Okay.
I had a reserve come back and there was a hole through one of the reserve risers. If someone would do some metal packing paddle, I was shoving it in there and they'd missed the ear.
Nice.
And they just...
Nice, I like that.
I don't know.
It happens. If it can happen, it will happen. And please, again, attention to detail and pack it like it's for your mother. I mean, care for your customers and take the time. If it takes you longer, take that time. If you're not sure, make a phone call. It's okay. I mean, I've even now, I called up Sandy Reed from Rigging Innovations a little while ago. We had one of his rigs come in. And I'm pretty experienced across all the aspects of rigging for the years. And had these toggles. The reserve toggles didn't have a grommet in. It's like, no, I couldn't find a manual. How do I attach those properly? I thought, you know what, I'm going to call and get his rigger, speak to her. I don't want to speak to Sandy because that'd be embarrassing, right? And I know how it is. You get kind of scared to call. So I called to speak to Sandy, and he answered to the rigger, and he answered the phone. I said, I've got a really stupid question. And he goes, what is it? I said, I don't know how to tie the control line to your toggle. Oh yeah, I know about that. Let me fax you over a diagram. It was fine. So it's okay to ask questions. Okay, don't feel like you shouldn't, because everyone needs to ask questions they don't know. Even me. Everybody does. So here, you want to hold the container off the floor, because right now the cypress switch is here, and if you put it onto the floor and there's a small rock or the lead seal's on the floor or something on the floor, and you give this a good tap, you can actually break this, because I've done it. That's why I shared that with you. I actually have. I've had the housing come across and start to cut through and break it as well. Anybody watch the cypress unit? Just me? Yeah. And I share this so you guys don't do it, because the more you touch rigs, the more you work on rigs, the more chance you got to make a mistake. And it was back in the early days of Sunpath, and I put the rig in the washing machine, and I could hear this on the glass of the front. It's like, no! And I opened it up, and it's like, oh, it's all wet. Oh, I could have died. So I called up SSK and I said, I've got a wet cypress. I didn't want to say too much. And he said, Tom, is it salt water or brackish water? I said, no, it's bubbly soap, sheer detergent water. And he just laughed. And of course, I was lucky I could go run the pat with a tear in my eye. I needed a cypress, and I got it. And then years later, I was at a symposium, and Helmut Clough was there, the owner of AirTech, and we were having dinner at the same table. And he brought that up, and I have never met him before, and he knew all about it. He goes, you're not the only one. It's like, yes. So again, share information, because it helps people not make mistakes typically. So again,
Dinner stories.
It does. So keep this off the floor, hold the flaps, and give it a technical tap, like so. Okay. Then this pin flap's going to come across quite easily, not being loaded by the pop top. Okay. So from here, I turn it around.
I wish I could do a technical tap to my wife.
She might give you a technical tap. Okay, so from here, it's the last flap. And this is something someone showed me in California 2 or 3 years ago, and I was struggling giving a class like this. And again, I'm always open to learn new things and pass that on. So when you have the skyhook, this is called a marine eye cable. It's called a marine eye here. It's not a terminal pin like a standard pin. So when you put the pin through, there's a lot of force and pressure on this cable. Like you're fighting it all the time, and you're in a class, you're sweating, you're nervous, you're trying to get it in, and it falls off, and you can't get there. So I was doing, exactly that. And one of the guys in the class says, "Try this," and this is why you want to keep this out. If you have a Fat Daddy ripcord, take it out, protect the Velcro. It's very abrasive. Now you can control where this goes on your time. It's not finding a fixed point. So that's a little thing there which I find helps quite a lot. Doesn't mean you can always pin it quite easily, but it's going to help you at least. The pin does go in one direction through the chamfer. It keeps the ripcord and pin in line. If you go the opposite way, it actually puts an angle to it. Is it going to work? Yeah, it's absolutely going to work. Is it correct? No. So it goes in one way. And again, I can use this now too. Any reason why I covered up the Velcro? Does anybody know? I don't care for the carpet. I'm more concerned about the harness being touched by it. That's the main thing right there. And if it will, it will. You know what I mean? So just do that. You've already got the tool out anyway. So again, put your knee on the pin flap. You guys have any questions? And we still have 20 minutes. That's great. Sorry.
You're Aussie.
I'm English with a messed up accent.
Same difference.
Yeah. The fastest I ever packed a Javelin back in the day was 17 minutes from start to finish. We were racing each other, and the four-way team had to catch a plane. And as my teammate was ragging beside me, I'd get his tools and throw them over there to slow him down because it was fast. And it was perfect too, but we were pretty calm at the time. But 17 minutes is my record. There's no rush. There's never a time limit at all. I don't wish to beat 17 minutes ever again at my age. Oh, I can't see. I'll put the temporary pin back in because I actually want to see what I'm doing. Well, that helps. Okay, thank you. Do you mind holding it there for a few more minutes? Okay, here we go. Teamwork.
It's his phone.
It's teamwork.
Oh, no. Oh, it's still on. Yeah.
We'll try the other side. Okay.
Yep, good.
Thank you.
Tom, I probably missed this because I didn't. Have you talked about the thickness of the port card?
Yes, I have,
I
sir.
missed that.
Well, the reason why I use a 1,000-pound Spectra,
Yeah.
I know it goes against what AirTech say,
Yeah.
and that's you should always follow the manufacturer's recommendations. But because we've gone through the Cypress cutter on the floor plate first,
Yeah.
our loop's already through it,
Yeah.
we don't have to kind of navigate this through again.
Yeah.
So with this being actually wider, it makes the loop bigger too.
Yes, that's right.
And it puts less stress on the loop when I put the temporary pin and the final pin in. So I personally prefer that.
So where do you get that from?
cut it off a steering. No. You can actually buy probably as many yards as you need from your local rigger or from Paragear or somewhere like that.
What's it called?
This is a £1,000 Spectra suspension line.
Okay, fine.
That's what I use. Or if you only have the small line from Cyprus,
Yeah.
you can finger trap a small piece
I'll do that.
in the center, and that's going to do the same thing. Okay, so then when you pull this out, again, the speed creates heat and friction, and that creates damage. So take your time. Most of the time I just cut it and pull it because I've got miles and miles of it, but of course you don't need to do that. So just take your time and bring it out. That doesn't look good, does it? Good, like so. I know in England you guys have to do a pull test, is that correct? Yeah. Every time, and record it. And what is the maximum force allowed?
22.
22. Same for us. We're not obliged to do that test in America, but I can confidently tell you that we use peak load scales, and I've had at least 6 systems at a time put out, which I've packed, and done a pull test on them, and they've been 16 to 18 pounds every time with this configuration. Because of that, let's just say there's a 100-pound girl and she's tiny, and I want to make sure that she's going to be able to pull the pin. So what I do is I just take the ripcord in my hand, and I'll put this back in now, take off the Velcro cover, put it back in the pocket. There's nothing worse than standing up and actually putting your foot on the ripcord and it fires. So then you can just do this and move the pin slightly, and you know she's going to be able to pull it like that. So I'll just put it underneath the protector, like so. You can just push it back down a bit more. Sorry?
Do you still not have the same pull force in it?
We do, it's 22 pounds, but we're not obliged to check it. But every one I do, I twist my wrist. I know for a fact, because I use a peak scale beforehand, they're 16 to 18. Then the next day, it's going to be less pressure again. But everything we've got is lined up perfectly. It's not trying to be long enough to get to where it's got to go because I missed a step earlier on and compromised the situation. Does that make sense? So from here, anybody know why we have Velcro here?
No.
Anybody want to know why we have Velcro there? Okay. The Velcro here hesitates and rotates the pin. So when you pull the ripcord slides off the pin. Without the Velcro, the ripcord would pull the pin to the housing, and you get to there and it stop. Even though all the magic's happening and you're good, you go, oh my God, what's happened? So the Velcro allows the pin to rotate and hesitate, and the marine eye slips off the end of the pin. That's why it's there.
That's what happens with them blue vector things. It jabs on the top.
That's a good feeling, huh? Okay, then the second to last step is I'm going to make a small S-fold with the fabric of the pilot chute. I'm going to cover the mesh because the mesh has got friction to it. So when I use the F111, I'm going to take the S-fold, I'm going to push it against the underside of the A, B, C, D, and E. So it's going to get pushed across, and then, quite barbarically pretty much, it's going to go down into the hole, like so, where we made earlier on. There shouldn't be a hump here, it should go down. If it starts to have a hump, the loop's got to get longer, the flap's got to get further to get to the loop. Once they connect, it goes backwards and the main flap's affected. So, work towards you. I've seen people do this. I haven't stopped them because it's too amusing to watch. But work towards you. So make an S-fold. It might take you 2 or 3 attempts. Depends on the size. The thing I didn't mention earlier, which I really should have, is that what doesn't change between the RSK and the J8, which is our biggest student container? There's 2 things that don't change. Exactly. This doesn't change. So you have less area to put into a small one. So the more meticulous you are with the smaller ones, the easier ones are much easier to do. The bigger ones are much easier to do, actually. But the RSK, the NJ, the TJNK, there's a very narrow margin here. So the pilot chute doesn't change. The volume doesn't change. The amount of bridle doesn't change. So when you pack the larger ones, there's more room, not for error, to be, not spend as much time as you could to make it detailed. But if you can get the small ones correct and do the same process for the larger ones, it'll be just fine. Okay, so make it a little S-fold. I'm going to go under the A-flap. I'm pushing up now, feeling for the middle and down. And I'm just going to push that in and down. I can see a bit of pilot chute there, which I didn't want to see. But never, ever, ever, with any paddle or any tool, put it underneath. If there's fabric exposed, I'd rather expose it than pinch it against the coil of the spring, which can cause damage, and then it could possibly get worse in deployment. So don't ever use a paddle. I saw a rigger in Arizona recently doing this, like that, and I stood there going, and the master rigger goes, "Come here, you better stop him before I talk to him." He goes, "I got it, Tom." But people do silly things, but we don't ever use those tools underneath the pilot chute, ever. So then turn the rig around, and do exactly the same thing, work towards your body. It takes quite a lot of force to get it under there, of course. Make an S-fold, push it up against the A&E, feel for the middle, do the same here, and push it down. What you see here, sorry guys, is there's a tension crease. Do you see this crease? Do you see it? Do you guys see the crease? It's a tension crease. What happens when the loop's the right length, bringing this flap across, it causes tension, and that tension crease drops down on both sides against here, like this. So if your bridle is inside these two bar tacks here, and your tension crease is correct, and your pilot chute inside the bar tacks or the tension crease, you can never ever see it. It's never ever going to come out. In 100 years, you won't be able to see it. It doesn't change. Riggers say, "Oh, it does that, it's a Javelin." It doesn't do that. It does it because you have a long loop, and it's not packed the way we like it packed. So if you have the tension crease and your bridle and pilot chute are behind that tension crease, you're never going to see it again. And you can't actually see it by picking it up because it's gone down like this. Does that make sense? And that's why you have that. So you're looking for that when you pack it. It sounds like it's down. Then the final thing you want to do is make room for the risers. Stand the rig on its side. You can bash it all day long, it's up to you, but if you have 5 rigs to pack, you'll have a sore wrist. I just take the paddle and I hold it in place. I just fan it like this. So this stitch row here, you can see that, guys? That's the back of the back pad. So between the back pad and the reserve container stitch row is about 12 to 14 millimeters. That's where the channel for the risers is going to go. So if it bows out, it's going to inhibit onto the riser cover itself. So just bring that across and do the same on the opposite side. Use your weight, just fan it. That's how we pack it at Sunpath.
Yeah, that's beautiful, fine.
If it's got creases in it, blame it on the shipping company when you mail it. But no, pretty much this is where you should be at. And if you practice, you can do that. I mean, take the time. I know there's a lot of new things for you guys to try, especially a long split ear. Again, have the customer go get a coffee, try it, and see how you get on. But if you try even close to this process, you're going to achieve wonderful things. I mean, the rig looks great. The customer's going to be happy. They're going to come back and see you for more work, and that's important. We're happy because you guys are doing it correctly, and we know that if you get stuck, you can give us a call. So thank you very much for your time.